Welcome back, guys. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today we're going to be talking about the edge room. Look, Hassan Reddick was traded to the Jets. I no longer cover the Jets, so it doesn't really matter to me. It does hurt the Rams, though. If they were looking for an option, I think Reddick made a lot of sense, but I actually did some research of my own on this position because I wanted to go back to the beginning of Les Snead's tenure with the Rams back in St. Louis in 2012. All the way back then, I went through and I looked at all the edge prospects, whether, obviously they were in a 4-3 at one point, especially with Jeff Fisher. So defensive ends and outside linebackers. And what I found was actually pretty interesting. Before we dive into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media at JK Bogan. Let's get into it. So the reason I'm making this video today is because, first off, we have to know what comes next. I mean, could the Rams really roll with the current crop of guys that they have right now on the roster going into next year? I think it's certainly possible, but I definitely wouldn't rule out them drafting anybody in the draft. I definitely think they'll draft at least one guy, if not two. But look, let's be honest here. We've heard it. The Rams were interested in some edge defenders. They didn't make enough of a pursuit to get these guys. And I'm sure Aaron Donald leaving also hurt. As a matter of fact, I know Aaron Donald leaving also hurt. So let's talk about this, right? If you look at last year, you have Byron Young with 50 pressures. You have Michael Hoyt with 39. You have O'Shawn Mathis with 5. Zach Van Valkenburg with 5. Keir Thomas with 3. And Nick Hampton with 2. Now, you might hear that and say they have no chance if they do that again. And you'd be right, mainly because they don't have Aaron Donald. So by virtue of not having Aaron Donald, you have to imagine that the pressures are going to go up for edge defenders on the Rams. That's just the way it is. But looking back, if in case you're wondering, in 2022, the Rams only had 54 pressures out of Floyd. Michael Hoyt had 24, and Daniel Hardy had 1. So not a lot of edge pressure in 2022 outside of Floyd. In 2021, Von Miller led the fray with 60 pressures. Leonard Floyd had 58. Terrell Lewis had 21. Obo Okoronkwo had 15. Justin Hollins had 5. Justin Lawler had 1. That was the year they won the Super Bowl. 2020, Leonard Floyd signs a 1-year deal with the Rams, ended up getting extended afterwards. Floyd, 45 pressures, led the team. Ebukam, 19 pressures. Okoronkwo, 18. Justin Hollins, 10. Terrell Lewis, 10. Derek Rivers, 8. Ja'Kai Polite, 4. 2019, you had Dante Fowler Jr. with 67. Clay Matthews with 42. Samson Ebukam with 25. Obadiah Okoronkwo with 8. And then in 2018, you had 39 pressures out of Dante Fowler Jr., 32 out of Ebukam, 27 out of John Franklin Myers. Matt Longacre had 13. Dominic Easley had 2. And last but not least here, 2017, in the Sean McVay era, you had 38 pressures out of Robert Quinn, 30 pressures out of Connor Barwin, 26 out of Matt Longacre, 13 out of Samson Ebukam, and 1 out of Ewan Price. So what do you take away from that? Well, you take away this. The Rams haven't put a premium on edge defenders. They really haven't. They have not gone out and gotten a franchise pass rusher. You could talk what you will about Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd was really good. Leonard Floyd wasn't a franchise-altering player. Leonard Floyd was really good. Leonard Floyd was more closer to a Dante Fowler Jr. who comes in and plays at a high level, but he's not the best on the team and not even close. Now with Aaron Donald, can they continue to do this pattern? Can they go about it this way? Based on what we've seen in the past, it really reads to me like the Rams took Aaron Donald a little bit for granted. And understand what I mean when I say that. I'm not saying they didn't realize the type of player he was, but I am saying that maybe, just maybe, they didn't put as much of an emphasis on edge pressure as other teams did because they had a cheat code in the middle of the defense. With that said, in case you didn't know, I actually put them all together thanks to PFF. Most pressures by a Rams edge in the Les Snead era. This goes back to 2012, as I mentioned earlier. Number 10, William Hayes with 47. back in 2015 was traded away before he could be a part of the Sean McVay era to the Dolphins. Number 9, Byron Young, 50 pressures this past year in 2023. Number 8, Robert Quinn with 53 in 2014. Leonard Floyd with 7. He comes in 7th with 54 in 2022. Leonard Floyd in 6th with 58 in 2021. Von Miller cracks the top 5 here with 60 in 2021. Chris Long comes in 4th here in 2013 before Aaron Donald. He had 63 pressures. Dante Fowler Jr. comes in at 3rd with 67 in 2019. Chris Long before Aaron Donald in 2012 had 76 pressures, comes in 2nd place. And number 1 is Robert Quinn in 2013, the incredible season he had that year. Should have won Defensive Player of the Year, 91 pressures. So, what do we make of this? Well, I don't know if the Rams are going to have a shift in philosophy. I don't know if now that Aaron Donald is retired, I don't know if they're going to go out, balls to the wall. They're going to grab Chop Robinson and Adisa Isaac in the 2nd round. I don't know if they're going to trade up to get anybody. I don't know if they're going to trade for Josh Allen. But right now, based on what we've seen, I don't think they're putting that much of an emphasis. And I believe they should. So this is a video in what I think that they're doing. And also, like, I'm going to give my thoughts based on the fact that I don't exactly love the way that they're looking at such an important and vital area of the defense. Now, what have I said before, though, with Aaron Donald? They could change the way that they build this defense from now on. Everyone keeps looking at them to take the next Aaron Donald. There's not an Aaron Donald. They keep telling you that. They're not drafting a defensive tackle in the 1st round because when you think about it, and it really hit me the other day, listen to the way they talk about Kobe Turner. Look at the way Kobe Turner's been billed. He is a franchise player. That is how they're looking at him. Why would they draft a guy who has a higher, grade? Why would they draft a guy a higher round and put that pressure on him and take the edge off? Like, to me, in my opinion, they're going to draft an interior defensive lineman, maybe in the 2nd, maybe in the 3rd. I don't see them drafting one in the 1st. And they're definitely not going to take a defensive lineman just for the sake of taking one. They might take one in the 1st, but it's not going to be for the sake of it. It would be the best player available. That brings me to the edge spot. If you were going to change how you do things on the defense now that Donald's gone, okay, maybe you don't invest in defensive line early on. You don't have that Aaron Donald, but you have to at least have some edge pressure. And are we maybe overdoing it a little bit with this edge pressure talk? I don't think so. Because again, these numbers, like I said, Byron Young only having 10 fewer than Von Miller, albeit 2 fewer games Von Miller played. Byron Young only having 4 fewer than Leonard Floyd. Byron Young only having 5 fewer than Leonard Floyd in 2020. Like, is it really that bad? My biggest thing with the Rams pressure is that, again, this was with Donald. Now that Donald is gone, you still have to get to the quarterback. You're going to have to find ways. You could say a lot of these pressures by Byron Young were because of the emergence of Kobe Turner and Aaron Donald in the trenches. What that did is push the pocket back and break the pocket. And then a guy goes to the outside, Byron Young gets a hand on his jersey or whatever, now you have a pressure. So, for me, I do think it matters. I don't think we're going overboard with this. I understand the fan base's concern. I think there's a valid concern right now. With that said, let's try to figure out, what are the Rams doing? Well, what they're doing is, in my estimation, knowing that they've, been interested in some edge defenders, they didn't go fully out. I know especially Van Ginkel is somebody that we identified on this channel. Okay. We were all talking about him. Everybody wanted him. And they were interested, and they didn't put up the fight the Vikings did. End of the day, Vikings ended up getting him. So that tells me that maybe, just maybe, the Rams feel pretty good about staying young, and they feel good about who they have in-house. Because currently they have Nick Hampton, who they drafted last year out of App State. They have O'Shawn Mathis, who they drafted last year. They have Byron Young, who they drafted last year. Van Valkenburg had his moments, right? Keir Thomas is a guy that they've been developing. And then, of course, they brought back Michael Hoyt. Am I sitting here and saying this is the best thing since sliced bread? Absolutely not. But I'm trying to make sense of what they're doing. And to me, if you feel confident that in O'Shawn Mathis, who, by the way, you take a guy like that with those traits and those measurables and the overall size and build and athletic, ability, you take a guy like O'Shawn Mathis to be a little bit of a lottery ticket at the end of the draft. When you've already seen him get 5 pressures, you saw him flash a little bit in his first action of the year against the Eagles. Now you're like, maybe we have a future with him. And you have Nick Hampton playing meaningful reps down the stretch, and you're liking him in coverage, and he makes a huge play, later on this season in coverage. It makes you wonder, okay, hey, maybe we should be developing these guys. Byron Young has 50 pressures as a rookie. That's more than most of the top pass rushers in the league as a rookie for them. So maybe it's fair, right, to hear them out. We always talk about trusting in Sean McVay and Les Snead, but then they do something we don't like, and instantly we're like, oh, I don't like that. I'm going to say I don't like it, but it doesn't mean that I don't think they have a plan. So my feeling is that this is going to stay a young group, and Michael Hoyt will be the veteran, so to speak, there. They might add another guy, and I think if they do, Carl Lawson makes the most sense. But if they don't add a veteran, then expect it to be through the draft. And even still, I think it's going to be through the draft. And I think it's either going to be in the first or second round, and maybe they add another guy later on. But I think they're definitely adding one more guy. Now, you could call me Captain Obvious for saying that. But what I think is today, now that we know Hassan Reddick will not be a Ram, he's going to the Jets, it really eliminates all avenues. Josh Allen was a nice option, but he was never an option. It was nice to feel like he was, but the Jaguars had no reason to get rid of him, right? They lost Calvin Ridley. They were able to tag Josh Allen. They went all in on Josh Allen. You don't let a guy like that go. So the fact of the matter is this. The Rams now have the flexibility because they haven't, had any sort of, restructure of Stafford and Kupp's contracts. They can still do that. That is on the table. But they have the flexibility now to reevaluate. So currently on the roster, they have guys like Byron Young and Michael Hoyt and O'Shawn Mathis and Nick Hampton, right? But at the same time, they have the draft coming up, okay? It's March 29th. So soon we'll be talking about the draft. It'll be right on our doorstep, and we'll find out what the heck the Rams are going to do in the draft. We owe them the benefit of the doubt. They nailed a 14-pick draft last year, and they have 11 picks this year. I said last year when it happened, that was the best draft that I've seen them have in my lifetime. And I believe that. I stand by that. And I think there are some guys that haven't emerged yet that are going to you from that draft class. Whether I'm talking about Davis Allen or I'm talking about Nick Hampton or O'Shawn Mathis, does not matter. I think there are other guys there that can emerge and will emerge. With that said, though, if this is your group going into the year, you're concerned. However, they don't seem to be concerned about the youth there. And so I think it's going to be big in this draft. I think they'll draft at least one guy, and I think they're going to get somebody really good. And to me, Chop Robinson makes the most sense. Immediately when you lost Aaron Donald, you lost that quick, electric first step, that get off, right? And when we talk about get off, it's when the ball is snapped, you pause it for a split second, and you see Donald already crossing the line of scrimmage while everyone else is still in their stance. That is get off. That's quick first step. That is what Chop Robinson brings to the table as an edge prospect. So I like Chop. I like Latu. I like Verse. Most of the top guys I'm going to like. Who do they go with? Not sure. If I had to guess anybody that makes sense who will be there, a combination of who will be there, who offers the most, based on this type of archetype they're going with, the young, the athletic rushers. Hampton's athletic. O'Shawn's athletic. Byron Young's athletic. Whether you realize it or not, Michael Hoyt is insanely athletic. If you're going in that direction, all signs point to Chop Robinson, in my mind. They also point to Dallas Turner. Will Turner be there? I don't know. Personally, I like Chop more. There are other guys there as well. I mean, Chris Braswell out of Alabama is also very athletic, right? So they're definitely guys, and we'll talk about other guys as well. But I think in this draft, folks, they're definitely going edge early on. And, I think what the idea of this allows is these guys can get early reps. So a Nick Hampton can get an opportunity. O'Shawn can get an opportunity. Obviously, Byron has his opportunities and whatnot. They might be okay, and you have to understand, they might be okay starting off the season, rotating in and out Michael Hoyt, Hampton, O'Shawn, draft pick. And that might be the direction they go in. I know they pushed the trade deadline back by a week, so that could also come into play. But again, if the Rams do want to make a splash, they want to make a move at the deadline, then now they have the flexibility because they didn't already restructure Stafford or Kupp. They could do that at that point in time. So right now, I think the Rams draft at least one pass rusher in this draft high on the first 2 days. Maybe two. I think I'll go with two. I'll say they draft a guy on day 3 and they draft a guy on day 1 or 2. And after that, they're going to roll with what they have, maybe sign a veteran like I mentioned earlier, Carl Lawson. If they don't do that, they're going to ride this thing out until the deadline. They will evaluate their team at that point, whether or not that they are contenders, whether it makes sense to make a huge move. As we've seen in the past, the NFL never sleeps, right? We always see new things. A.J. Brown gets traded during the draft. Marquise Brown gets traded. Matthew Stafford gets traded. Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. You never know anything when it comes to the NFL. You might think this guy's the franchise quarterback for this team, and the team behind closed doors might not think that. The reason I'm saying this is because what we saw with Jalen Ramsey, I thought he was going to be a franchise player for the Jaguars. They ruined that relationship and they traded him away, okay? Or both sides, whatever. He ended up being a Ram. He wasn't going into that year. No one would have expected that. So things happen. Things come alive right now. Currently, I don't see any obvious moves. I like Trey Hendrickson, but I don't see Hendrickson necessarily being available if I think, and I do think this way, that the Bengals are going to be a good team this year. So what it really comes down to, it's a wait and see approach, might be the right approach. I am going to say, for what Reddick was traded for, and it was like conditional picks and right now it's looking at like a 2026 third, I believe. It could be up to a second, if he gets X amount of sacks and snaps and whatnot. I am a little annoyed that the Rams didn't go that route, but I trust the process. I trust what they're doing. I really was upset with them trading away Jalen Ramsey and, getting rid of Bobby Wagner and Leonard Floyd early last year, if you guys will remember. Yes, me. Normally people look at me and like, okay, he's Mr. Positive, and I get called a homer all the time. I just call things like I see it, and the Rams have made it pretty easy to look like a homer when all they're doing are things that I normally agree with. However, in that time, I disagreed. What did I say, though? I needed to see where we stood based on the draft. So the draft happens. I love the draft, and I get the plan, and now the plan makes sense. Right now, I'm not going to say I don't get it. It's that I don't know if I agree with their plan right now, but we'll have to wait and see at edge. Personally, I think this team has a top 3 offense going into the season, and I think their defense with a good draft can be top 15. Right now, they're probably around top 20. I think they could be top 15 to top 12, and that will be good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, for an NFC title, be in that realm. So it's important that they hit on this draft once again, obviously, but at the same time, I'm not stressed about it right now. I'm curious. I'm actually very fascinated and excited to find out what they do with this position, because don't rule out a trade before the season, as we've seen before with the Rams, but definitely don't rule out a trade around the deadline. That is where I think this thing's going. I think there's a player that's going to play about 7 games this year before he becomes a Ram and is a contributor on that defense. Those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments section below. Unfortunately, for those of you that wanted Hassan Reddick, he is gone. And by the way, I am still sick, so that's why I sound all congested and clogged up. But appreciate it, all the nice comments that I will probably end up getting, and wishing me feeling better and all that. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't already, and follow me on all social media at Ellenbogen. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, folks. Later. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.